Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tarot for Manifesting, where we use tarot as a tool to help us align with what it is that we're trying to manifest in our lives. In today's reading, we're going to be asking Spirit why you're not seeing success just yet. Okay, so if you've been really focused on a goal, you've made plans, you've taken action, maybe consistently, maybe a fair bit of time has gone by, right? And we're like, okay, where is the success? So today we're just going to be asking Spirit what you need to know about why you haven't seen or experienced success just yet. If there's anything that you're needing to change on this path here. Okay, we're starting with the Five of Cups. Why aren't you seeing success just yet? We have the Emperor in the reverse. For those of you that were drawn to click on this video today, why aren't you seeing success just yet? We have the Four of Swords. We have the King of Pentacles. Why aren't you seeing success just yet? We have the Eight of Swords. We have the Eight of Coins. Spirit, for those that were drawn to click on this video, why aren't they seeing success yet? The Queen of Coins. We have the Knight of Coins. Okay. And underneath the deck for your overall energy here, we have the Ten of Cups. Okay. So, what I feel like right off the bat is there's a lot of energy here that is very, very slow moving. Okay. The Knight of Coins is the slowest moving energy in the tarot. Okay. This is kind of showing up day after day, brick by brick. We're building it. And it may get boring at times. The consistency may become mundane, but at the end of the day, we have something really solid and really stable to stand on, okay? And that's what we're seeing here as well with this King of Coins and this Queen of Coins. You know, all of this energy together, this is what I'm saying really makes me feel like this is a very slow moving energy, but this is also very, very long-term energy, okay? The King and the Queen of Coins together, it makes me feel like Spirit is saying here, you are experiencing success. You know, your question here is why aren't you seeing success? Why aren't you experiencing it? This is Spirit saying you are. But it may be happening in such small increments that it doesn't feel like things are actually in motion. You know, it feels like things have slowed down to a point of, let's say, moving so slow that we can't really even tell that we're going, you know, that we're in motion, but you are in motion, okay? The Queen and the King of Coins, this makes me feel like you are actively building something right now with maybe the actions that you're taking. You are actively building something to support you and sustain you long into the future, well into the future. And that takes a lot of time, right? A lot of time. But also, it builds such a strong foundation that it can never really be shaken. You know, it's something that we always have to stand on. So I feel like the answer here is you are building success. It's just because this is so long term, it may not feel like it at this time, okay? And so this message is in particular for those of you who have just started. Maybe you started earlier this year or maybe even 1 year ago. This is a process of several years, okay? This is a very, very long-term commitment. But it's it's working. What you're doing is working, is what Spirit is communicating here. So keep doing what you're doing and keep the very, very long-term future in mind, because that's what you're working towards here. Okay. Now, we also have this Five of Cups, and this is coming in above this Knight of Coins. So this Five of Cups, this is a very disappointed energy. Okay. This is feeling a little sad, feeling a little down. And I feel like because it's coming in above this Knight of Coins, we're feeling a little disappointed, a little lost at, like I said, how slow things are moving. And with this coming in right next to the Emperor in the reverse, you may even be questioning, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? You know, the Emperor in the reverse here, it makes me feel like there could even be a little bit of hesitation at this point in terms of the actions that you're taking. You know, when the Emperor is upright, this is okay, I've planned and now I'm taking action and I'm going to keep taking action, and just kind of lather, rinse, repeat, you know, plan, take action, plan, take action. But when it's in the reverse here, this feels like a little bit of a second guessing with this Five of Cups, second guessing whether or not we're taking the right action, whether or not we're doing the right thing. And specifically, it feels like questioning whether or not we should continue, you know, pursuing this goal at all. I feel like if that is the case, this is Spirit saying absolutely yes. Please continue. Please keep on doing what you're doing in terms of pursuing this specific goal. Okay. But just know that it's going to be a long-term process. And intuitively, something else that I'm getting is part of the long-term process is understanding what works and what doesn't work. Okay. And so if you are, I'm trying to think of an example here. If you've started a new project, okay, let's just for example, let's say that you've just gotten into sewing, and you're trying to build a business out of it, right? Or say it's a really, you know, you're really skilled at sewing and you're trying to build a business out of it. This is, once again, learning what works and what doesn't. Maybe you know the sewing aspect, but you don't know the business aspect, right? And so this is another reason why it can feel like things are taking so long, is because there are certain elements or certain aspects of something new that we have to try out before we realize that they don't work. And then when they don't work, then we are steered in a more clear direction of what does work, right? So that takes time, you know, that trial and error process. And with the Five of Cups here, I mean, this can be a very, very discouraging process because such a big part of the process is failure, right? Like, let's say, just for example, we're trying out new ways to get our business out there, you know, to get people to know about our new business. And we've tried, I don't know, we've tried handing out flyers, we've tried Instagram, we've tried this, we've tried that, and nothing seems to be working. It can be really, really discouraging, right? To the point where with the Emperor in the reverse, we may even start to question, is this even what Spirit wants me doing? You know, am I on the right path here? Because it feels like if I were on the right path, then more things would be going right, you know? But this is not really the mindset that Spirit is encouraging. Spirit is instead kind of encouraging this trial and error, you know, trial and error. Okay, that's not working. How can we pivot? That's not working. How can we pivot? And with the Eight of Coins and the Four of Swords here, this is kind of like, it feels like there's a little bit of a practical guidance in these two cards of Spirit saying, with the Four of Swords and the Eight of Coins together, this is really an energy of you kind of withdrawing and just working, you know? And so what I mean by this is, if you can kind of, let's say, it works in two different ways. Okay, so I'm getting two different meanings here. But if you are someone who, let's say, you've been, you know, trying it out, I don't know, say you dedicate like 5 hours a week to this business, right? This is Spirit saying that could be one of the reasons why things are in such slow motion for you. And you're still building, to be sure, you're still building, but it feels like the less time that you spend on this, the longer that it's going to take, simply because you're in these beginning stages of trial and error, right? And so I feel like this could, if we're talking about this one meaning that this could have, this could talk about kind of increasing your workload, increasing the amount that you are, let's say, putting new things out there and trying out new things, kind of increasing the pace of the trial and error process until you find something that sticks. And then we can, kind of tamper it down a little bit in terms of workload. Now, it's not to say overwhelm yourself, right? But in that trial and error period, this is where things can get really, really discouraging as a whole, right? And so if things move a little bit faster, if we feel like we're just throwing a million different things on the wall and seeing what sticks, then this is where we can start to say, okay, well, many of these things might not be working, but at least I still feel like there's some movement because I'm learning things so quickly about what's not working. But if you're only, throwing one or two things to the wall every week and neither of those things are working, and then that happens, week by week by week, that is a really heavy, discouraging energy here. So this is Spirit really encouraging you at this time to, at least in the trial and error phase, like if you haven't reached a point where you're seeing anything that is working, maybe try to, or if you're disappointed in the pace with things, if you kind of, let's say, intentionally dedicate time to figure out what works and what doesn't, right? And just throw a bunch of things out there and do it kind of at a rapid fire pace, then that will at least kind of boost your spirits enough to say, okay, well, maybe even if I'm not seeing progress, at least I'm learning very, very quickly what doesn't work. Okay. Now, I want to be clear here. This can also mean, this can also work in the sense of, going slower. It's just going to take a little bit longer. And so if you, let's say you have no choice but to dedicate, let's say 5 hours or however long to whatever this is that you're, seeking success with, then this is Spirit saying it's just going to be really, really important for you to maintain that very, very long-term perspective, right? Because the slower pace in the beginning, the slower things are, gonna move for you. We also have this 8 of Swords here. And this 8 of Swords is coming in underneath this King of Coins and beside this 8 of Coins. So it also makes me feel like there is a little bit of self-doubt, okay? Which, like I said, the slow pace of how things are moving could, not be helping with that. The 8 of Swords is when we're really surrounded with a lot of self-limiting beliefs. And so it feels like with the 8 of Coins here, there could be, it feels intuitively like what it is that you're trying to seek success with is making money with something that you enjoy doing with this energy here. Doesn't have to be, but it could be, or getting really good at making money, getting good at building, a long-term foundation here. But with the 8 of Swords, it feels like there's a little bit of lack of belief that you are worthy and deserving of it, a lack of belief that you are capable of it. And that can be another thing that's slowing down progress too. If you are taking action and you're doing all of these things, but with the 8 of Swords here, you're secretly kind of, or subconsciously holding this belief of, well, it would be nice and that's why I'm taking these actions, but I just don't feel like it can actually happen for me. That is also slowing you down a huge amount, okay? It's really, really slowing you down here. So Spirit is kind of encouraging you with this 8 of Swords to keep an eye on that, okay? Maybe dig deeper into where those beliefs come from, right? What is the emotion behind those beliefs? Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it guilt? You know, those kind of deep rooted core beliefs. What is underneath this feeling of not feeling like we're capable of it, not feeling like we can ever have it? And in that sense, it's like you're still taking actions, but your actions are kind of canceled out by your thoughts and your beliefs, okay? So once again, I mean, you have the 10 of Cups as the overall energy here. So overall, it feels like you absolutely are seeing success, or you are experiencing success, but it's coming in such small doses that it may be hard to consciously register that the success is actually happening. But this is Spirit's reassurance that it is happening, okay? And that you are moving towards a very strong, stable foundation, regardless of how slow things are moving, okay? So regardless of where you are right now on the journey, you are absolutely moving towards this strong, stable foundation, okay? Spirit's guidance here is to dig deep into those belief systems and see where your thoughts are not matching up with your actions, okay? Where do we feel desperate? Where do we feel like it's not really possible? And then try and, let's say, adjust those thoughts and align those thoughts with the actions that we're taking. And finally, it feels like Spirit is saying here, if you have more time to dedicate in the beginning stages, maybe try that. Don't burn yourself out, but if you have the time, maybe try to dedicate a bit more time just to the trial and error process, right? Because that's kind of the phase that we're currently in, is knowing what works and what doesn't. So if we have the time to dedicate, then, you know, pouring just a little bit more time into this can really speed things up during this most frustrating process of trial and error. And if you don't have the time to dedicate more, that's okay. You're still seeing progress regardless. Okay, just stay really firmly rooted in that very, very long-term perspective. Okay. Okay. So that is all that I have for you guys today. As usual, I really do hope that you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it and you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And yeah, feel free to give this video a like, a comment, let us know what you're manifesting down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Okay.